Hello, I'm in Paris. Hi, replay viewers. Hello, new viewers. Julie Bogart here from Brave Writer, just coming off the last 5 days in UK, and I am successfully now in Paris visiting my daughter, Katrin. We've already had our big reunion. We went out for dinner, and now, for the first time in a week, I'm home by myself in this gorgeous, can't really tell, Airbnb that is perfect to just recover from the conference and then spend time with my daughter and see this incredible magic city that is in France. You know, sometimes I even almost dread travel because I'm so tired of it. And then you get off the plane and you drive into Paris. You're like, how could I not be totally thrilled to be here? It's just a fantasy place. It's incredible. Hello, Janelle and Jennifer. Oh, thank you for saying you love my photos. Hi, Candace. I'm trying to keep all of this reflection out of my glasses. Just bear with me. New space, none of my good lighting. Hey, Jamie, glad you're here. Yes, I'm glad to be back. This is the totally wrong time of the day. I'm using my Kindle to be able to read to you, but I thought it would be really worthwhile to check in. I've been looking forward to this for days. Sounds like you're hearing my voice just fine. It keeps flashing headphones every time I look at it, but I'm assuming that doesn't affect you. Thank you, Amy. Thank you. I feel a little careworn. I had to take the train, and then I had to navigate through this massive Gare du Nord and trying to find the exit. At one point, I was caught. You have to, use the sortie, the little exit for getting out of the train area to where the taxis would be. So you push a button with your suitcase, you go into this little cubicle, and then you have to use your Metro card to get out. Only I couldn't find my Metro card because I thought I was done with it and I had tucked it away in a flurry. And if you've seen that Friends episode where Phoebe gets trapped in the little jail when she's at a jewelry store, I was standing there going, oh my gosh, I'm trapped in the little jail. But I did find it. Clearly I got out. So that was great. And then I hopped into a taxi with a man whose family background was Senegalese, and we had a fabulous conversation all about the places I've lived and been in Africa and where he's lived and been. I sat next to a Moroccan woman on my flight from London to Paris, so we spoke in French and talked about Morocco, and I threw the 6 words of Arabic I can remember at her, and she was enjoying that, and I enjoyed her son, and I don't know, there is something about this part of the world that's especially comfortable for me, and it feels, it's weird, it's like a little bit of a homecoming. So yeah, so I feel very lucky. Last week was incredible. The UK Brave Schoolers are the warmest, most generous, completely open-hearted people. We had such an incredible time together, and I really look forward to sharing with you things I learned, ideas that I gleaned from talking with these moms in person, things I can share with all of us. And I'm grateful if any of you are on right now. Hello, Zara. Be sure to make yourself known. It was really, really exciting to actually be in person with the UK. They were saying how sometimes they feel a little left out because of time zones and American culture. And so for me to be there and they be the focal point for a week felt really great to them. So I'm happy that I got to do that. Yeah, it was incredible. Well, I miss you too, Zara. It was just an exceptional week, and I want to do more of those. I love seeing everybody in the Brave Writer community. It's worth all the harassment of travel and the way that I sort of dread the transition stages. I'm fine once I arrive. It's not flying, because I love flying. Flying never makes me nervous. It's actually navigating trains and taxis and transitions and not losing things that is what stresses me out about travel. But once I'm there, oh my gosh, it's always incredible. And getting to be with Brave Writer families is like the creme de la creme. So anyway, I want to read from a gracious space because we're behind. We've had all these days go by and you've had no one to read to you. Your read aloud time. So have you been reading without me? Who's been reading without me? I hope you are. I hope that your homeschools are nourishing and enriching and that you are finding your balance and you don't have to rely on our daily reading to find it. Maybe you're starting to get your feet under you a little more. I've heard from so many of you that you're starting to purchase the book and read it yourself. Of course, you can buy it as a book, but you can also, well, it won't show on here, you can also get it for your Kindle, and that's how I have it today. So, oh yay, a West Coaster, exactly. I mean, the time zone thing is great for you on the West Coast. It's like afternoon, right? So yeah, I'm thrilled that I can switch it up once in a while and let other people have a live experience. So thanks for posting. If you're new to this live, I'm Julie Bogart. I'm normally broadcasting from Cincinnati, but this week I'm spending 2 weeks in Europe, 1 week in UK with the Brave Writer families there, and 1 week here in Paris with my daughter Katrin, who is an exchange student for the fall semester. She met me at the door. I got out of the cab, and there she was already, and we had a huge hug, like the kind that you see in the movies. You know, it was nighttime, the cab pulls up, my daughter is there, and it was perfect. We walked into this amazing, amazing apartment. If you travel, do Airbnb. I'm telling you, it's so much better than hotels, with this courtyard and this modern, beautiful house. And then we went out for Thai food. And as we were walking down the hill, Katrin goes, "Mom, look up." And I look up, and there is the fully lit Eiffel Tower, perfectly framed between 2 rows of buildings, just in the distance. And I thought, happens every time. Paris, man, just gets you. It's such a great place. So let's read, shall we? Today we are reading day 32 from A Gracious Space Fall, my book of non-sectarian daily readings to help you sustain your homeschooling commitment. Today's reading is called Pick One Thing. It's a new day. What will you do with it? I suggest picking one thing. You can't do 10 things, and your homeschool won't transform itself overnight. What you want, and what creates momentum, is a series of deliberate, prepared choices that lead to a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. You get there one thing at a time. Pick the subject, practice, habit, or attitude you wish were more present in your home, and then do it, or have it, or develop it. Identify the one thing that is on top of your mind, the one that keeps coming back to you as the one thing you wish you were living or doing right now. Then follow the one thing principle. Number 1, prepare ahead of time. Plan a date, purchase whatever you need, make copies, organize, think about, read literature related to your one thing choice, gather materials. Number 2, execute on the day of. Follow through with enough time to invest deeply without distraction. Turn off your phone, shut down your computer, don't answer the door. Be fully present. 3, enjoy your kids and you. Let yourself forget everything else but that experience or lesson. Be here now. Don't do other things simultaneously. Don't think ahead to what you will do next. Engage. And then number 4, this is the most important of the 4 things. Reminisce. Later that day or next week or even next month. Talk about what was fun. Remember humor. Honor connections. Recollect what went well. Talk about when you might do it again. Quote of the day. But I can't narrow it down. Kidding, what a burden lifter. Angela Palomo. Sustaining thought. Oh, the joy of picking just one thing and then seeing it through. So what's funny is, I taught about the one thing principle at the UK Brave Schoolers Conference. And immediately, Belinda, who I was staying with, told me that she knew what her one thing was going to be. She had been putting off free writing forever, felt unconfident about it, and after hearing me teach about it at the conference, she knew that was her one thing. While I was staying with her, it evolved in her own mind. She thought of ways to make it more interesting to her kids. She thought of how she would involve herself. In fact, when we did the free writing as a group, she wrote a little story that included the names of both of her children and came home and read that to them a full week before they even know that they will be free writing with their mom. and they begged her to keep the story going. They loved hearing their names show up in the free write she did at our conference. And so she told them, oh, I'll finish the story, but not this week, because she's going to finish it when they're all free writing together. What a great idea. What I've noticed is if you give yourself permission to actually fantasize about the thing that you keep not doing that you wish you were doing, all of that creative energy will flow to it. It'll be like suddenly you give yourself permission to entertain the idea that you could possibly pull it off, as opposed to all that energy going in the other direction, which is, I feel guilty and bad that I'm not doing it. Does that make sense? And that's really what we're talking about, isn't it? It's helping you to give yourself permission to really think about the thing that you want to do, and then fully allowing it to evolve and develop inside so that you can bring your best self to that experience. And your kids can anticipate it and look forward to it with you. I also love talking about this reminiscing part because I think it's really important. You know how when you have a family vacation, it's not difficult, 6 months later, to recall the inside jokes that developed because you were all, road dogs buried in blankets and wrappers in the car, and somebody made a funny quip and now everyone repeats it. And then you might say, oh, well, that was like, when we went to the lava fields in Hawaii, or that was like when we rode the mule down into the Grand Canyon. There's this larger than life quality to a vacation. So it makes it really easy to reminisce. And then we want to go on more vacations, don't we? Bring that same sensibility to your homeschool. So if you decide to have a poetry tea time, a week later, it's worth it to say, what was the name of that poem that we read that we all laughed at so much? I was just thinking about it this morning. That was so funny. Because when you do that, you're building momentum. It isn't just checking a box to get it done. It's as though you value it so much. It is now a part of your family story and your family culture. You hear what I'm saying? So the one thing principle isn't just a guilt reliever, and it's not just about doing the things you keep putting off. It's actually about creating momentum in the homeschool. It's giving your story a narrative. It's helping you keep the pedals going. The pedal that you push down to do the thing, well, then that's bringing up the memory a little later. And then you push down on the memory, which makes you want to do it again. And then you push down on doing it again, and it brings up the memory. And that's what creates this downhill effect, this momentum, this homeschool running away with you kind of feeling. Because the things that are successful, your kids want to do them again. And then the things that aren't successful, it gives you food for thought, something to think about. If there's nothing to reminisce about, then maybe it isn't its best expression of what it could be. Now, I know we've talked a lot about how some subjects are just lunch, right? They're not the gourmet dinner. They're not the nutritious breakfast. They're just that middle, same old food every day kind of thing. I get that. But we want more of our children's lives to fall into the category of, I want to reminisce about that, than into the other category of, I checked the box and I got it done. Know what I'm saying? I know for myself that sometimes when I think about which one thing am I going to do, the first thing that pops up is the thing I want to do, and then right behind it is the thing I think I should do. How many of you have that feeling? Yeah, it's that feeling of, well, she said pick the thing I want to do, but there's this other thing I've been neglecting that I really should be doing. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, don't do that thing. Okay? Promise me you won't. Start with the thing you really want to do. We're talking here about building momentum. We're not talking about addressing your darkest worries. Certainly, you will address those. But what I want you to start with is something that actually gives you energy to address it. Because typically the thing we think we should do hasn't really surfaced yet for our best creativity. The should do is still tied up in all of the ways it should be done, and all of the negative reasons, and all of the resistance. So don't start with that. Start with something that brings joy to you, because then all your creativity is available. And you might be surprised that once you let yourself have permission to bring joy into your homeschool, that it loosens the stress around the thing that you thought you should be doing. In fact, you might even be able to borrow some of that happy energy right into the thing that you should do. But until you've created that happy energy, why would you go do the thing that's just going to add more weight, more guilt, more tears, more frustration, and more stress? When you could be doing the thing that's going to relieve stress and create freedom and anticipation and all those imagined ideals that you created when you started this journey with your kids, when you began homeschooling. Make sense? So start with the thing you want to do. Start with the thing that's like, ooh, that looks great. Oh, I wish I was doing that in my homeschool. Now, what if the thing you wanted to do was, I don't know, big party? You're like, oh no. Does that mean we won't be doing math or history or language arts while I'm throwing this party? Maybe. Maybe. Could you give yourself permission to experiment with that? To actually say, I'm going to give all my attention to throwing a party with my kids, like around a topic they care about. And then pick the topic. It could be electricity. It could be the lunar landing. It could be preparation to going to Mars. It could be, Spain and all of their cultural habits. Like, I don't know what you're studying or what has fascinated your children. But if you've been thinking, it'd be really cool to throw a party around one of my kids' academic interests, and if that, just eradicated all the other stuff on the schedule for a several week period, could you give yourself permission to go in and really do it and see what happens? I did. It was incredible. We spent 6 weeks planning a party, a gold rush party. And then guess what? The 6 weeks were over and the math books had not gone anywhere. They were weirdly just like literally sitting where we had left them, like waiting for us. And all those read-alouds, still in the library basket, probably with overdue fees, but like still there. Like, you can do it. You can take a window of time out of your life. You've got all kinds of time. You've got all kinds of time. In fact, all you have is time. You can give your kids the one thing that is going to create momentum in the homeschool, and all the things you feel so hypervigilant and responsible to do won't go anywhere. They will be waiting for you when you come back from your journey. It's like me coming to see my daughter in Paris. Many of you are writing me emails with questions right now. Those emails will still be there for me next Monday. And right now, my focus is on Katrin, right? Because that's where it should be. And we're doing this big adventure for a week. And then I'll come back and all the work that was sitting there before I left will still be there. And it won't really be worse for the wear being away from it for a week, doing this other really valuable, really important thing. And that's true for you, by the way. That is true for you, by the way. Homeschooling is a long journey. And even with kids in high school, this is true. Do you know how much wasted time there is in the school system? How many times when you back off of something and you come back to it, your child is leapfrogged into understanding because their brain matured? So give yourself permission to do the one thing that right now you fantasize about. The thing you think would bring energy to your family. The thing that delights you. Maybe it isn't even the thing that delights your kids. Maybe right now what needs to happen is your one thing is, I fill in the blank. I'm going to learn about Eastern religions. I'm going to start becoming more serious about oil painting. I'm going to read aloud every day, even if my kids don't listen. You pick, and maybe that will bring your kids in. And if it doesn't, it will at least enrich you. And when we have an enriched, happier, educated you, we automatically get better, enriched, happier, and educated kids. It's axiomatic. It's axiomatic. Literally, the better vocabulary you have, the better vocabulary your kids will have. The more you've read, the more your kids will know that reading is valuable. The more you care about art history, the more art will show up on your kids' radar. The more you're invested in your physical health, the more your kids will discover that physical health and well-being are important. You can't screw this up. If you focus on one thing at a time, you follow the imagination of what will bring well-being and health to you and your family, and you live it with confidence and then reminisce about it afterwards. That's how the one thing principle works. And as you're thinking about what one thing, I hope you'll post them in the comments. I see somebody put a cross-country road trip. Wouldn't that be amazing? How much learning would happen on a cross-country road trip? When my kids and my husband and I moved from California to Ohio, we did it in 13 days. It is not a 13-day drive, but we went to the Grand Canyon. And then we went to, oh my God, my brain just blanked. The Red Rock place in Arizona. It'll come back to me. We saw the Red Rocks in Arizona. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Then we went to Colorado and we saw Pikes Peak. And then we drove through Wyoming and visited relatives. And then we saw Mount Rushmore. And then we saw the Painted Desert, like that. Sedona, thank you. Gosh, that was going to drive me crazy. And then we went to Minnesota and visited friends, and Chicago, and visited the American Girl place because it was the only one in the country at the time. Like, that's meaningful, memorable, educational, incredible. I didn't pull out a single book of any other kind the whole time, right? Yes, you do need to just read books for your own pleasure, of course. In fact, you know why I like flying? Because it's the one time I totally give myself permission to read novels. Usually I'm so busy reading for my work, reading for Brave Writer, children's books, or business books, or books about nonfiction subjects that are relevant to me, I forget about fiction because fiction is very involving. And I find myself with fiction unable to do my normal tasks. So when I get in the time capsule called the airplane and no one can reach me, I can read a whole book. I just finished Commonwealth by Ann Patchett. Incredible. Felt so good. Every night after being with all these people, I'd crawl into my little bunk at the Davies house, tiny little bedroom for, a little 9-year-old girl that I took over for a week. And I'd turn on the nightlight and I would just read. And I was like, gosh, this is a break from the computer. It's a break from scrolling through Facebook. I just was with people. I was sharing about Brave Writer and I was reading. That was my life for a week. So restorative. I had no idea it would feel refreshing. So yeah, and guess what? I get to come back refreshed, reinvigorated about fiction, thoroughly topped up, as they'd say in Britain. And that's really important. And this week, I'm going to be looking at art and climbing the Eiffel Tower and going to Versailles. You know all of that's going to show up in everything I do in Brave Writer, right? I'm going to bring back the riches of what I got when I went away and bring them to you. Aren't you going to do the same thing with your kids? Isn't that what we do in community? We go out, we collect a whole bunch of stuff emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, relationally, globally, and then we bring it and give it to the people we love. And we create culture and connection and romance and support and intellectual rigor together because we've all gone out into the world with curious minds, with enthusiasm, with a hunger to know, not check, check, check on the list all the time as the only way to learn, which we already know is not the greatest way to learn. It's just one of the ways, right? Yes, Eiffel Tower. We're going to go up in it. I've been to Paris, I can't even tell you how many times, and I've never gone up in the Eiffel Tower. So this time we're going to do it. And Katrin and I are trying to figure out if we can get to Giverny, which is Monet's garden, which I have wanted to do since literally 1984 and have never done. Just kills me. So I don't know. Hopefully this is the trip that it'll happen. If it doesn't, that's okay. I mean, she's got a school schedule, so we have to work around that. But, I have some aspirations. I have some places I want to go, places I haven't been yet. Staying in a part of Paris I've never been in before, so that's all wonderful. Yeah, Giverny, exactly. Carol is one of my long-term homeschooling friends, and we used to spend all kinds of time reading books together. Every Sunday, our little community of online homeschool moms, each one of us would take a turn sharing an artist. We called it Sunday Art. And so during the week, One of us would prepare, you know, Picasso, Monet, anyone. I mean, literally, we've done artists from around the globe. And we would take a whole bunch of painting pictures off the internet and we would coordinate them into this long post and then give some story around the painter and their background. And then we would all comment on the paintings. It was like the highlight of the week. We were homeschool moms. Our kids didn't even see this stuff. It had nothing to do with them. Only it had everything to do with them. Do you know what I'm saying? But we loved it. We would just discuss art. And of course, there were these incredible artists in our group. I was not one of them, who helped me understand what I was seeing in ways I could never have accessed on my own. But in our community, we shared the learning adventure, and we gave it to each other as a gift. It was a treat. You would get your big cup of tea and you'd be like, oh, it's Beth's turn. Can't wait to see what Beth brings. Oh, it's Carol's turn. Can't wait to see what Carol brings. And then we would just discover something new. It was incredible. Yeah. Oh, Carol. So, you know, you could be doing that too. Tia's on here too. She was another one in that community. And Jeanette, who also works with Brave Writers, she was in that community. I can actually still remember some of the art that I learned from Jeanette because it was so powerful. Like, I remember the artists. So these are what I'm talking about. Figure out what your one thing is and go do it. Get a community if you need it. And then involve your kids. Because if you're living your life out loud, they're going to want to hang out with you. What you're interested in that captivates you is going to fascinate them. I mean, isn't that how it already works? You're over there making dinner. Don't they want to get in on it with you sometimes? You're making cookies. They want to help. You pull out the sewing machine. They want to sew something. You're going to go take a nature walk and see birds. Don't they want to come? Not all your kids are going to want to do all of it, but some of them are going to want to do all of it. You're going to have kids who are interested in all the different things that interest you. And then guess what? If you show interest in their one things, they'll reciprocate. So it's a both-way thing. If they're really excited about manga, well, go get on the couch with your child and watch manga with them. Look at the books. Learn what they know. Get interested. While I was with this mom, Belinda Davies, her whole family, which phenomenal family that I got to stay with. I mean, incredible family. And the whole family knows all the names of the Formula One racers because they have one boy for whom Formula One racing is his top priority. And so literally they're calling through the house, hey, what place did so-and-so get? And what happened to the guy who sat out the morning race? And they're all into it. And he makes his own little newspaper about the event and they read it. Okay? This is what I mean by one thing. You know, she was saying to me, I don't know if he needs to do more copy work. I'm looking at him copying poems in rainbow colors, writing a newspaper about Formula One, carefully copying over a really lengthy passage in their holy scriptures. I think he's doing copy work out of self-motivation. Does he really need me to add the arrow? Of course not. This is how it works. This is how it works. Good night, everyone. Bonsoir. May you have bon rêve. And I will talk to you all tomorrow.